In October 1871, a fire started in a barn on the southwest side of Chicago. Within minutes, it was beyond stopping. Not because no one tried, because in 1871, against a fire this size, there was almost nothing anyone could do. The city was built of wood. Wooden houses, wooden sidewalks, wooden streets, packed so tightly together you could step from one roof to the next. It had not rained in weeks. The whole city was dry as kindling, and it was about to prove it. The fire jumped from building to building faster than a person could run. It crossed the river, which everyone had assumed would stop it. It did not stop. For 2 days, one of the great cities of America burned to the ground, while its people stood on the far shore of the lake and watched the sky turn orange. And the thing that finally put the fire out was not a bucket of water, or a fire engine, or any human effort at all. It was rain. This is what it meant to live in a city that could not put out its own fires. And for most of human history, every city was exactly one spark away from the same ending. To understand why a whole city could burn, you have to understand how much fire people lived with, every hour of every day, and how little it took for one flame to become all of them. There was no other way to live. Fire was not a hazard people chose to keep around. It was the only source of everything. You cooked over an open flame. You lit your home with candles or oil lamps, each one a small live fire held in glass or tin. You heated the house with a hearth, and you worked by fire too. The blacksmith's forge, the baker's oven, the candlemaker's vats of hot tallow. A single city block held hundreds of open flames burning at once, in buildings that shared walls, under roofs that touched, and those buildings were made to burn. Wood frames, wood shingles, thatch in older towns, everything sealed with pitch and tar and dried by the sun. Inside, straw on the floors, oil, grease, cloth, timber. A home in a pre-industrial city was, in the most literal sense, a pile of fuel with people living inside it. So the danger was not that a fire might start. Fires started constantly. A knocked candle, a spark from a hearth, an ember carried on the wind. In London, in the years before the Great Fire, the city fought small blazes almost every week. The danger was what happened next. Because once a fire caught hold in a district built like this, there was no mechanism, none, to stop it from taking everything around it. The flame that started in your kitchen did not stay in your kitchen. It belonged to the whole street now. People knew this. They lived every day with the knowledge that the small flame keeping them warm was the same flame that could erase their entire world by morning. And they had almost nothing to fight it with. We say people fought fires. It is worth being honest about what that actually meant. For most of history, fighting a fire meant a line of human beings passing buckets of water hand to hand, from a well or a river to the flames. A bucket brigade. Picture the arithmetic of it. A building fully involved in fire throws off heat you cannot stand within many feet of and consumes itself in minutes. Against that, a chain of people moving a few gallons at a time by hand from a source that might be streets away. It was not a fair fight. It was barely a fight at all. Bucket brigades could sometimes save a single building caught early. Against a spreading fire, they were close to useless, and everyone doing the passing knew it. There were no fire hydrants because there were no pressurized water mains. There were no pumps that could move water at the scale a real fire demanded. The water was wherever the water happened to be, and it had to be carried. So when a fire grew past the reach of buckets, people fell back on the only tactic that actually worked, not water: destruction. If you could not put the fire out, you could try to starve it by tearing down the buildings in its path before it reached them, leaving a gap of empty ground the flames could not cross. You demolished houses to save the street. You blew them up with gunpowder or pulled them down with hooks and ropes and chains ahead of the fire deliberately, while the people who lived in them watched. In London, in September 1666, this was the decision that defined the disaster. A fire had started in a bakery on Pudding Lane, and in the first hours, when it might still have been contained, the officials hesitated. Pulling down houses meant destroying the property of people who would demand to be paid for it. The Lord Mayor, faced with the choice, balked. By the time the order came to start demolishing in earnest, the fire had grown beyond the point where Firebreaks could hold it, and it burned for 4 days, taking most of the medieval city with it. That was the shape of the only real defense. To stop a fire from destroying the city, you destroyed part of the city yourself, on purpose, and hoped you had guessed right about where it would go. This was the best anyone could do, and for the people whose homes were pulled down to make the gap, the fire had already taken everything, whether it reached them or not. And then, slowly, something that looked like organized firefighting began to appear. Brigades with equipment, trained men who came when a fire broke out. It sounds like the beginning of rescue. It was not. Because the first organized firefighting in the modern world was not a public service. It was a private business, and it decided whose house it would save based on who had paid. After the Great Fire of London, insurance companies began selling fire policies. And to protect the buildings they had insured, these companies formed their own private fire brigades. This is where it turns. When you bought a policy, the company gave you a fire mark, a metal plaque, bearing the company's emblem, that you fixed to the front of your building. It told the world, and more importantly, it told the brigade, that this building was insured, and by whom. When a fire broke out, the brigade would race to the scene, and then they would look for the mark. If the building carried their company's mark, they fought the fire. If it carried a rival company's mark, in the early years, they might stand aside and wait, or leave. And if it carried no mark at all, if the people inside had no policy because they could not afford one, then the brigade had no reason to lift a hand. They would stand in the street with their pump and their water and their trained crew, and they would watch a family's home burn because that family had not bought the right to be saved. Imagine standing on your own street watching it happen. 2 houses side by side. Yours, unmarked, catching fire. The one beside it, marked, insured. And the brigade arrives and they go to work on your neighbor's house, wetting it down to protect it, while yours burns beside it. They are not cruel men. They are employees doing exactly the job they were paid to do, which was never to save people. It was to protect property their company had a financial stake in. This is the thing the clean story leaves out. Firefighting did not begin as a shared human response to a shared human danger. It began as a product. Protection from fire was something you purchased, and if you were poor, you simply did not have it. Survival was rationed by who could pay. The flames did not choose their victims. The system did. So what changed it? What turned firefighting from a private product into the thing we know now, the crew that comes for anyone, paid for by everyone? The answer, grimly, is that the fires got bad enough to force it. Return to Chicago, 1871. When the rain finally stopped the fire, roughly 1/3 of the city was gone. Around 100,000 people had no home to return to. An area of nearly 3.5 square miles had burned flat. It was one of the largest urban disasters the country had ever seen, and it could not be waved away as bad luck or the will of God. A modern city had burned down because a modern city had no adequate way to stop it. That was a problem of engineering and organization, and it demanded an answer. And here, the story turns one last time into something almost hopeful. The catastrophe became the cure. In the years after the Great Fires, cities did the things that had always been possible but never forced. They built professional public fire departments, paid for by the city, and sent to any fire, marked or unmarked, rich or poor. They laid pressurized water mains and set hydrants into the streets, so that water no longer had to be carried by hand. They wrote building codes that banned the wooden construction that had made the cities into kindling in the first place. Chicago did not just rebuild what it had lost. It rebuilt in stone, in brick, in iron, and soon in steel. The wooden city that had burned was replaced by a city that could not burn on the same way again. And on that fireproof ground, within 2 decades, rose the first skyscrapers in the world. The tallest, safest buildings humanity had ever made grew directly out of the ashes of the fire that had proven wood could not be trusted. The disaster did not just end an era, it built the next one. There is a small sound in your home you have learned to ignore. The chirp of a smoke detector, a sprinkler head in the ceiling you have never once looked at, a fire engine passing in the street, and you do not even turn your head because it is not coming for you, and if it were, it would come. For almost all of human history, a single flame could take everything you had. A knocked candle could end a family, a street, a whole city, and there was no one to call because no one was coming. And if by some means someone did come, they checked first whether you had paid. Now the fire starts and someone puts it out. Every time. For everyone. It does not matter whether you own the building or rent a room in it. Whether you are wealthy or have nothing at all. Someone you will never meet will come into the burning place you have run out of for a wage that could never be enough, and they will not ask to see a mark on your door. We forget how strange that is. We forget that for most of the human story, the fire came, and you watched and you ran. The spark that terrified every generation before us is the one we have finally stopped fearing. That forgetting is how completely we won. If you have ever wondered how the ordinary safety around you was built, and what it replaced, this channel is where we find out. Subscribe and we'll keep uncovering the world that came before the one you know.